Before we get into the video, I wanted to add a little disclaimer that I am by no means a doctor or nutritionist. This is just the way I personally eat and the way that makes me feel my best at the moment. I think intermittent fasting has been something that's been really in trend lately, and you will find endless articles about the positive benefits of intermittent fasting as much as you're going to find negative feedback about intermittent fasting and why you shouldn't do it. So I'm just talking from my personal experience. What works for me might not work for you. This is just personal experience and it's not based out of any scientific fact. You can probably find a lot of scientific facts about why intermittent fasting is good for you or bad for you or both, but this is just personal experience. Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Chloe if you're new here, and today I wanted to talk about intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting has been very popular lately. A lot of people are talking about it. I know in the fitness community it's also super common. And I have been experimenting with intermittent fasting since about a year now, and I wanted to talk about my experience, how I started, the benefits I encountered, things that you need to be aware of when getting into intermittent fasting, and the reason why I started in the first place. The way I started intermittent fasting was in a very natural way. I was in the winter in Berlin and I had my breakfast every morning before going to school, and I didn't feel my best. I didn't feel very light and I didn't feel very focused. Somehow I just didn't feel very clear in my head as well. And so towards the end of the winter, I went on a trip to LA last year and I was shooting a documentary there, and I was also staying with a friend of mine who was eating mostly raw but was also sort of doing intermittent fasting. Not like an extended period of time for intermittent fasting. We were still having sort of breakfast, but usually a little later, maybe around 10 a.m. We would go to training in the morning, and then what changed a lot for me is that we would have dinner a lot earlier, like around 4 or 5 p.m. And so for 2 weeks, I ate that way and it really worked great for me. I think also the fact that I was eating mostly whole foods and I wasn't eating any more gluten. I was eating mostly fruits, veggies, and potatoes, sweet potatoes, beans, and lentils, and avocados, and that felt really, really great eating that way. And then when I came back, I continued eating that way because I really felt amazing. And also as summer was coming, I felt more and more drawn to eat more juicy fruits than oatmeal for breakfast. So that sort of was my very easy transition into intermittent fasting. It wasn't like I had read about intermittent fasting before. It was not anything like that. I just adapted to the environment I was in, and then I felt great and just replicated that when I came home and just continued with it. It wasn't a conscious decision of saying to myself, oh, I'm gonna try intermittent fasting. I heard it's great for weight loss or anything like that. I didn't really need to lose any weight at that time. There was nothing really that I was looking for. If anything, it was just to regain more energy and just feel more clear in my head, like more mental clarity. And so when I came home, I continued doing it, but I started having breakfast later. So maybe instead of having it maybe around 10, I would have it around 12, but then I would eat later at night. It just suited my lifestyle and schedule better. At that time, my eating window was about 6 hours, so I would eat from 12 until 6 p.m. and then I would have 18 hours of fasting. That wouldn't be exactly like that every day, I wouldn't count, but that would be more or less the way I would eat. And then it's evolved. I've had some periods where I would have breakfast earlier and my eating window would just be a little longer, and then my fasting window a little shorter. But more or less how I've been doing, especially recently, and I would say kind of the average of how I've been doing it is I've been eating from about noon until 8 p.m. So that's an 8-hour eating window, and then a 16-hour fasting window from 8 p.m. until noon the next day. That's working great for me. That's how I feel really good. Sometimes I'll have my first meal earlier, and then sometimes my dinner earlier. Sometimes my window expands a little bit. I don't really care. That's just the time of the day where I'm usually hungry, and I don't count the amount of hours that I'm fasting. I'm not dogmatic about it. It's just I eat when I'm hungry and I stop when I'm full. And yeah, I try to not eat too late at night because then I go to sleep early, but I'm really not strict about it, and every day is a little different, obviously. So for the last year, what I've been eating has been a little different to what I ate in the previous years. It's not changed drastically. As some of you know, I'm a vegan. I have been for the last 6 years. I would love to make a video about my 6 years experience as a vegan. If you're interested, let me know in the comments. That's something I would love to talk about because I think I've learned a lot from it. And so in the past year, what I've been eating has slightly changed. So I've been a lot more careful about gluten. So I don't eat gluten at home anymore. I used to buy bread and things like that. Now I just really don't. I eat very rarely gluten, and when I do, it's when I'm going out. So when I go out with friends, or if I have a dinner or something like that, I might eat gluten, and I'm not too picky on what I eat, as long as it's vegan, obviously. But I've noticed that going gluten-free has really helped with my digestion and my skin, and has helped reducing the bloating. And then I've also reduced the amount of grains that I'm eating. So I still eat like quinoa, rice. I do eat all of these on a weekly basis, but I would say that back then, my main starch staple was white rice, whereas now it's mostly potatoes. And I just find that potatoes digest better with me, and I just like them better. I think we all have periods. I personally have periods where I could just eat potatoes, and I love potatoes, and then I'm kind of get sick of them, and then I switch back to rice or something else. So I've been in like a potato year, I would say, and that's so weird to say that. And I've been feeling great doing that. I've also started eating a bit more fat, like more avocados and more nuts, but not in like crazy amounts. I'm also not as picky as I used to be with oil, so I don't necessarily cook with oil, but if someone cooks with oil, I'll eat it. And sometimes I might use a little bit of oil in like my hummus. I really love putting sesame oil because it just really gives a good flavor without putting so much of it. So that happens. I've been also implementing tahini and peanut butter into my diet, which is something I didn't really have that much before. So these have been like the fats that I've been eating. I would say that overall I just eat a lot more whole foods and raw foods and less processed foods. In the first years that I was in Berlin, I was so excited to try all the vegan products that I ended up eating processed foods quite regularly, rather than now it's more of a side thing for me and a treat that I'll have once or a couple times a week, but not something I'll have every single day. I have periods where I eat more processed foods than others. I'm really not picky or counting anything. I don't count calories either. I really eat to nurture my body and feel great, both physically and mentally, obviously. I think that just eating healthy is not necessarily the best thing you can do for yourself either. I do eat chocolate pretty much every day. Like, I do have a small percentage of processed foods into my days every single day, but I just don't make them the major part of my diet. But overall, I would say that with the benefits I've experienced from intermittent fasting, I have been able to eat a little bit more of whatever it is that I want to eat. So a few of the benefits that I've experienced from intermittent fasting, the first one is a better digestion. My digestion is so much smoother now. I just never feel bloated anymore unless I eat gluten. That sometimes causes pain because I'm a little sensitive to it. But other than that, for the most part, I have a really, really effective and good digestion, which is something that wasn't always the case before. That also might be a consequence of me just eating more whole foods and more fruits and vegetables, which also contain more fiber and help with digestion. But I would say that overall, I feel like my metabolism and digestion are working a lot better because I allow my body to rest in between meals. Another benefit I've noticed from intermittent fasting is the mental clarity. Since I'm not having breakfast in the morning, my body can use its energy that would be spent on digestion onto another activity that I want to do. So I've realized that when I work in the morning, I feel a lot more productive and I'm actually being a lot more focused during that time. One other thing I've noticed is I've become skinnier. I've had people commenting last year about my figure. I know a lot of you guys are new here, so you haven't really seen me how I looked like before, but I was definitely not as lean as I am now. I was in no way overweight. I have not lost weight from intermittent fasting. If anything, I've gotten leaner, so I've lost fat and be able to store muscle better. All my clothes fit. I'm just less bloated and I have less water retention. Overall, I just look more fit and lean compared to before. Especially in my belly, I grew up always having a flat tummy without never being careful about what I ate or anything like that. That was never an area of my body that I had to worry about. And I remember that before I started doing intermittent fasting, I was dealing with bloating quite regularly, and that was something that was really unusual to me. And since I started intermittent fasting and also taking care of what I was eating, reducing the amount of gluten I eat, because this makes me bloated, it's just personal, maybe it might not be the case for you, but in my case I saw a drastic difference, and so my belly is back to normal again, and I feel really good when I wake up in the morning, and I feel very light and energized. So that's something I've noticed. I've definitely lost some fat and gained some muscle. I've also trained, so I think the diet has a big part in how you look, but if you don't work out, you're not gonna look fit. And then the last thing that I've noticed is that my skin is looking better. I still have acne around my cycle, so I have a period of the month where I do still get acne, but my skin overall is doing a lot better. It's been able to heal. I have started also doing the celery juice, which has helped me a lot with my skin. And just exercising and avoiding gluten. I realized that when I eat gluten, I tend to break out, and that's why I avoid it for the most part. And then finally, the last benefit I've experienced from intermittent fasting would be that I feel very disconnected to my food. Maybe that's not the right word, but I really don't think about food unless I'm hungry, which is really good because I'm actually not wasting my time. So that means when I'm doing something, I'm fully in it. And then when I get hungry, I'm fully connected to my food and what I eat. I'm very thankful for it. But then once I'm full and I'm satisfied, I can completely think about something else. I recently made a what I eat in a day video of what I eat in a day doing intermittent fasting as a vegan. So if you haven't seen it yet, you can check it up here. And I think it would be really interesting for you if you're just wondering a bit what my meals look like and any meals ideas and stuff like that. If you have any more questions or if you feel like there's something I didn't mention in this video, just let me know. That's been my experience for the last year and I really love doing it, and I just feel like this is a way of eating that really works for me. It might not in a month or two, it might change. I don't know. I keep myself really open to whatever my body tells me and my lifestyle and environment. But right now, this is something that's been working for me and this is something I really love doing. As I said, it's not a mental choice to do this. It's more just my body just intuitively doesn't feel hungry in the morning. And remember, what works for someone might not work for you, and what works for you right now might not work for you in the future. I think that's all I wanted to say. So thank you guys again for watching this video, and if you want me to talk more about this topic, make sure you give this video a like, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!